Far out.
Well, the 1970s were a golden time for cartoons such as Scooby Doo, Josie and the Pussycats, and so on. Almost any animated fan would remember the 1972 film Fritz the Cat. Released as the first X-rated animated black comedy film, Fritz the Cat was based on Robert Crumb's comic strip and written and directed by Ralph Bakshi. The plot follows a fraudulent, womanizing cat that wanders around an animal version of New York City in the later half of the 1960s and focuses on his adventures as he unintentionally ends up as a leftist revolutionary. While it was supposed to be a satirical commentary on American college life, the free love movement, and political revolution, the film did end up in quite some controversy and was even considered to be a pornographic release at first. However, it soon became wildly popular, and today we will explore how Fritz the Cat went from an X-rated cartoon to a cult classic that changed animation forever. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin.
Decent words to a guy, bastards. What a bore.
The birth of Fritz. From underground comics to animation, Robert Crumb first came up with the concept of Fritz the Cat all the way back in 1959, when he was just a teenager, and he worked on it and finally published it in a humor magazine named Help in 1965. This strip included many anthropomorphic animals that were used to add a dash of creativity to children's comics, but with a twist that no one saw coming. Instead of using these characters for silly entertainment, Crumb used them as a means to explore adult themes, such as countercultural disillusionment and drugs, which was quite a revolutionary move at the time. In the next few years, Crumb also relocated to San Francisco to immerse himself in the counterculture and publish comics for underground publications, a move that helped him gain popularity as a leader in the underground comics movement. His work soon gained traction among mainstream audiences as well, and in the meantime, Ralph Bakshi had partnered with Steve Krantz to form Bakshi Productions in the late 1960s. Initially, Bakshi felt that the partnership was holding him back from pursuing his own ambitious projects, such as Heavy Traffic, while Krantz maintained that the studio executives would not fund such media. At this stage, Bakshi did not have much film experience, and he started exploring other options when he first picked up a copy of R. Crumb's Fritz the Cat. He was immediately floored by Crumb's satirical commentary, and he put forth a proposal to make a feature film based on it. Krantz agreed to arrange a meeting with Crumb, and Bakshi then presented him with some sample drawings that convinced Crumb that he would faithfully adapt his comic into animation.
Oh, indeed.
Production against all odds. Crumb was initially impressed with Bakshi, and even gave him one of his own sketchbooks for reference, but it was not long before his enthusiasm faded and he refused to sign the film's contract. He was not even sure about the film's direction, and Bakshi's colleague, Von Bode, even warned him about Crumb's tendency to be slick. In order to get the project moving, Krantz then sent Bakshi to live with Crumb and his wife Dana in the hope that Crumb would finally agree to sign the contract. While this did not do much to change Crumb's mind, things eventually worked out in Bakshi's favor as Crumb's wife, Dana, had power of attorney, and she readily signed the contract. According to the contract, Crumb was slated to receive $50,000 in addition to a 10% share of the profits, and while Bakshi and Krantz gained the copyrights to the film, their production issues were far from over. As they started looking for distributors, Krantz stated that all major names turned their offer down as studios were hesitant to distribute any independent animated films that deviated from family-friendly children's entertainment. So far, the standard for animated films was set by Walt Disney Productions, and they had to go through great trouble until Warner Brothers finally agreed to fund and distribute the film in 1970. They decided to develop the Harlem sequences from the comics first, and Krantz hoped that they might at least succeed in releasing them as shorts in case their funding was pulled. However, Bakshi was far more hopeful that they would be able to complete the film, and they worked on a presentation reel for Warner Brothers and screened it for them in November 1970. Bakshi described this experience as something he will never forget, and stated that they were quite enraged to the point where one of them even left the screening room. They further declared that this was not what they were allowed to create, and the executives requested that they tone down the nature of the scenes and cast famous voice actors. However, this did not match Bakshi's vision, and he refused to make any changes, which then caused Warner Brothers to pull their funding. As they went back to step 1, Krantz finally struck a deal with Cinemation Industries' Jerry Gross, who was known for specializing in exploitation films. While they did not have much time to make a pitch, Gross was on board because he saw great potential in the film's provocative content. Moreover, Saul Zaentz struck a deal with them to distribute the soundtrack album under his Fantasy Records label, and even 20th Century Fox agreed to distribute the film in locations such as Australia. Now that this was out of the way, Bakshi was hesitant about directing the project after having spent years animating animal characters. However, Crumb's story motivated him enough to direct Fritz the Cat, and he had all kinds of ideas for the character's animation. Again, it became difficult to find animators who wanted to be associated with the project, as many artists refused to work on projects where they had to draw dirty or vulgar scenes, and one of them even quit because she did not want her children to see what she had worked on. Eventually, Bakshi went back to the animators who had worked with him in his early career at Terrytoons, including artists such as Tim Tyre, John Gentilella, Nick Tafuri, Martin Terrace, and so on. He also worked with Larry Riley and Cliff Augustine and asked animator John Sperry to draw some of the first sequences of the film. It was also tricky to produce animation with few resources, and the team had to omit pencil testing and early-stage storyboarding, which was crucial to ensure quality. However, this turned out well for the film, as it resulted in a unique rough-and-ready animation style, and Bakshi was quite pleased with the final result. Of course, the next challenge was funding expensive voice actors, and Bakshi then turned to the real people on the streets of New York to find his actors.
Have they offered a reward for any information leading to my arrest?
Oh, don't be so mellow.
Breaking animation taboos. How Fritz got its X rating. Fritz the Cat's X rating caused quite a stir, primarily because it was the first American animated film to receive such a rating from the Motion Pictures Association of America. Typically, this rating was reserved for art house films, and Krantz and Bakshi had a hard time advertising and promoting the film ahead of its release due to the X rating. Around 30 newspapers rejected their offers to advertise the film or write any public editorials, and Cinemation then used this to its advantage by promoting the film as 90 minutes of violence, excitement, and The film was heavily marketed by Cinemation as an X-rated animation, and it caused many audiences to believe that it was a pornographic film. Krantz even tried to appeal the X rating, but the Motion Picture Association of America remained firm in its rating, and Bakshi said that they almost did not deliver the film due to this exploitation. However, the film's reputation soon cleared up after it received critical acclaim, raving reviews, and an acceptance into the 1972 Cannes Film Festival. Social and political satire. What was Fritz really saying? Well, we have explored all the troubles that came with the film's production and rating. Let's look into the film's plot and see what exactly Fritz was trying to say. The film was set in 1960s Manhattan, wherein our protagonist, Fritz, was introduced as an anthropomorphic tabby cat. Right off the bat, Fritz arrived at a park performance where hippies were singing protest songs and tried to impress 3 girls who were also attending the event. However, things do get intense in no time, as the girls pass condescending remarks about black people, and Fritz then decides to present himself as a troubled genius. As the girls take an interest in him, they go to a party where they inevitably all end up together, while 2 pig policemen arrive at the scene after receiving a complaint. The film takes us on a wild ride, as Fritz then ends up smoking marijuana in a crowded bathroom, evades the cops, and eventually ends up in a synagogue that soon leads him to a congregation celebrating the US's decision to supply weapons to Israel. The entire film is filled with many such instances that raised eyebrows, ranging from situations where Fritz unintentionally sets the building on fire, steals the car, and even incites a riot. As the film progresses, Fritz travels to San Francisco with his older fox girlfriend, eventually abandons her, and ends up in an underground bunker with some revolutionaries. He eventually gets caught and even suffers grave injuries in an explosion. But the film ends on a funny note as he seduces 3 girls while another character watches him work his charm in utter disbelief. In this way, Bakshi managed to create a world of animation that could explore dramatic satirical storylines and mature themes that resonated with adult audiences. Even though the film provoked quite a lot of criticism due to its depiction of violence, sexuality, verbal and physical abuse, anti-religion sentiments, and substance abuse, it did manage to find its audience over time and pave the way for adult animation that is now seen in shows such as The Simpsons, Family Guy, and South Park. In addition to this, the film did get some criticism for the way African American characters were represented as crows in this anthropomorphized world. But again, the creators were praised for how they developed each of these characters' personalities, came up with original characters, deviated from stereotypes, and found new voices among the masses to ensure authentic representation instead of running the same established names in the industry. The use of found sound was quite rare, as most media released at this time lacked African American voices and unscripted conversations of this kind, especially on the big screen. Moreover, the film also got a lot of praise because it did not restrict its satirical commentary to a specific group, and instead it targeted everyone, ranging from establishments such as the cops and military to liberals, fake intellectuals, hippies, violent revolutionaries, religious leaders, militant feminists, and so on. All of these elements came together to make this film such a wild success, as audiences found the adult animation genre as well as the satirical commentary equally engaging and entertaining.
Join our souls in sacred truth.
Box office shock. How Fritz proved animation wasn't just for kids. When Fritz the Cat was first released in 1972, it had quite a limited run, and slowly grew at the box office to become such a worldwide hit. Against a budget of $700,000, the film grossed over $90 million worldwide and became the most successful independent animation film of all time. However, the film had to prove itself worthy, and Bakshi noted that the preview screenings did not receive an overwhelming response, as audiences did not take animation seriously at first. The film also received negative reviews for its content, and Bakshi was on the receiving end of a whole lot of resistance from the people running the industry, while younger audiences enjoyed it thoroughly. The critical reception was also mixed at first, but it leaned towards the positive side, as many notable review channels called it funny, brilliant, and audacious. The film was said to have enough potential to change the face of animated cartoons forever, and favorable critics' reviews contributed towards audiences taking an active interest in the film and viewing it as an important breakthrough in animation.
Yes. Together we shall all learn the real existential essence of
The fallout, R. Crumb's reaction, and legacy issues. While R. Crumb hesitated, his wife had signed off on the rights to make the film, and Crumb eventually watched it during a visit to Los Angeles. He saw his comic strip come alive on the big screen, alongside other underground cartoonists such as Rick Griffin, Spain Rodriguez, and so on, and he was quite dissatisfied with the film. Among other concerns, Crumb believed that Skip Hinnett's voice acting did not suit Fritz's character, and that Bakshi should have voiced the cat. In later interviews, he also said that the film reflected Bakshi's confusion and that it was twisted and unfunny, and went on to state that it brought out Bakshi's repressed emotions. Crumb further did not approve of the film's narration that condemned the radical left, and eventually filed a lawsuit to have his name removed from the movie's credits. While there are no official records of any such lawsuit, the creators reached a mutual agreement to remove his name from the credits. Even though his name has remained in the final film since the theater release, Crumb did go ahead and publish a comic strip titled Fritz the Cat, Superstar. This was released in People's Comics in 1972, and the comic followed a jealous girlfriend as she kills the cat with an ice pick due to his overt sexism. This was Crumb's attempt at ensuring that the character dies down, and he later stated that he tries to block out any experiences related to the film. In fact, he said that he once had to watch the film during an appearance at a German art school in the 80s, and that this was a humiliating experience for him. Crumb has been quite vocal in expressing his distaste towards the film, and he even recalled how Victor Moscoso had advised him that the film's creation might be something he would regret forever. While Crumb states that he did come around to regret it, Bakshi has stated that he created a good film out of his comic character and that they could have been best friends, especially after how well the film turned out. Is Fritz the Cat still relevant? Needless to say, all of Crumb's comments did have an impact on the film's legacy, even though it turned out to be quite a commercial as well as a cultural hit. The film's success even inspired a sequel, The 9 Lives of Fritz the Cat, but Bakshi did not lead this project, and the film was directed by animator Robert Taylor instead. While this sequel did not perform as well as the original, Fritz the Cat still has quite a long-lasting legacy as an innovative and groundbreaking release in animation. By exploring themes such as sexuality and violence in an animation format, Bakshi managed to bring his ambitious vision to life and push through the barriers of what cartoons could achieve. The film also laid the groundwork for future animated adult shows, such as The Simpsons, BoJack Horseman, and South Park, and was selected as one of the greatest animated films of all time. In addition to deviating from mainstream culture and exploring representation and politics, the precision of which the film captures the social and political zeitgeist of that era manages to shock and surprise audiences even today.
Think they know the whole goddamn score.
Marvelous verdict. In this way, there is no doubt that Fritz the Cat is one of the most groundbreaking animated films of all time. Not just because of its status as the first X-rated animated film, but also because of just how revolutionary it was to come up with such striking satire and package it in the form of an animated movie. The film has truly created a long-lasting legacy in the genre and inspired a bunch of well-loved adult animation shows, and we hope you enjoyed exploring a bit more with us today. As always, we would love to hear your thoughts on Fritz the Cat in the comments below, and if you haven't explored it yet, we definitely recommend adding it to your watch list. And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one, be safe, and thanks everyone.